This is Mac OS Ken.
Friends of the court are unfriendly to Apple. Jony Ive joins OpenAI, and a docuseries on Mr. Scorsese. That's Mr. Scorsese to you. It's Thursday, the 22nd of May, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Spotify's playing Amazon's old game, fun with numbers without numbers. 9 to 5 Mac had word of an Amicus brief filed by the music streaming service in support of Epic Games this week. According to that, they've seen subscriber growth since the App Store anti-steering changes enacted a couple of weeks ago. The piece says that was when Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers barred Apple from charging commission or otherwise interfering with developers' ability to direct customers to payment methods outside of the App Store. According to Spotify's Amicus brief, by forcing Apple's long overdue compliance with the injunction, the 2025 order has created substantial benefits for developers and, more importantly, consumers. Spotify's internal data shows that its iOS app updates have already resulted in a significant increase in iOS users upgrading to a premium subscription. Apple's compliance has also enabled new product innovations that would not have been possible without the injunction. Gosh, I was hoping they would say how big of an increase. Oh, wait, there's more. In the 2 weeks since Spotify updated its iOS app in accordance with the 2025 order, the brief continues, the rate of conversions from the free to premium tier service has remained relatively constant on Android, while conversion among iOS users has increased substantially. This strongly suggests that the increase is due to Apple finally complying with the injunction thanks to the 2025 order. Gosh, I was hoping they would say how big of an increase. Spotify's filing was apparently in opposition to Apple's request that the old App Store anti-steering rules go back into effect while Apple appeals Judge Rogers' ruling. Anyway, that's why Microsoft filed its Amicus brief in support of Epic on Tuesday. The piece from The Verge had Mr. Softy saying Apple's anti-steering stance is the reason the world didn't get the Xbox mobile web store promised for July of last year. Mr. Softy's brief says Microsoft should have been allowed to offer consumers a workable solution by launching its own online store, accessible via link-out, for in-app items to be purchased off-app and used in games or other applications. And that is what Microsoft wants to do. So, they can now, right? Yeah, but they want to wait and see how the whole court thing plays out, it seems. According to The Verge, it's clear that the software giant also wants to ensure Apple's appeal against the ruling is not successful. If Microsoft did launch its Xbox mobile store, and then Apple won a temporary stay, may have to pull that store pending the appeal process. You probably heard already about former Apple design king Jony Ive's next gig. A piece from Mac Rumors says OpenAI is acquiring I.O., the hardware-based AI startup co-created by Ive. Part of me wants to stop right there, but now, the piece says Ive has been working with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman on I.O. for 2 years. A piece from TechCrunch says the deal means Ive will now lead creative and design work at OpenAI, though other former Apple talent will also get the color. That piece says many of I.O.'s employees are former Apple designers, including Scott Cannon, Evan Tankey, and Tong Tan, who helped build the firm's most iconic products. Meanwhile, Ive will retain control of his design firm, Love From, which will continue to operate independently. As for what they plan to produce, the TechCrunch piece says I.O. under OpenAI will develop AI-powered consumer devices and other products. That sounds a bit too certain for Engadget, though. That site says whether this points towards physical OpenAI devices on the horizon, and if so, what form they take, remains unclear. Of course, every piece focuses on the integral part I've played in designing iPhone and how the OpenAI AIO combo might challenge the Jesus phone. The Mac Rumors piece says OpenAI's work on an AI hardware product would put it in direct competition with Apple. The site says people are waiting for whatever's going to replace iPhone, and that is apparently a feeling they can get used to. The report says the first device from the partnership between OpenAI and IVE is expected to be something different, with more information set to come in 2026. Apple's list of vintage gear and obsolete gear has lengthened. A piece from Mac Rumors says the Cupertino company grew both lists on Wednesday. As a reminder, vintage devices are those that have been off the market for more than 5 years but less than 7, while obsolete machines have been off the market for 7 years or more. Added to the vintage list are iPhone 7 Plus and 2 models of iPhone 8, the 64GB version and the 256GB model. The 128GB model is not yet considered vintage. That's because it was sold for a longer period of time, according to the report. Apple and its authorized service providers will still service vintage devices, provided there are parts available to do so, which is not the case with obsolete products. So you will want to take extra care with your iPad Air 2 and iPad Mini 2. Those have both been moved from vintage to obsolete, according to Mac Rumors. Another big week of announcements and teases from Apple TV+. First, word of a docuseries about which I am truly excited. In a press release Wednesday, the Cupertino streamer announced Mr. Scorsese, a 5-part take on iconic director, producer, and writer Martin Scorsese. The release refers to the series as a film portrait of the director through the lens of his work. Anchored by extensive conversations with the filmmaker himself, the series also spends time with his childhood friends, family members, and fellow creatives, including Thelma Schoonemaker, Steven Spielberg, Paul Schrader, and others, as well as such Scorsese stars as Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jodie Foster, Cate Blanchett, and more. The series is directed by Rebecca Miller, whose other works include the feature She Came to Me and a documentary about her father, Arthur Miller. No word in the release on when the series will premiere. News of a new season for the Spanish-language drama Women in Blue. In another press release on Wednesday, Apple TV Plus announced a Season 2 renewal for the series. Set in 1971 and inspired by true events, the release says Women in Blue Season 2 continues the story of 4 women who defied the ultra-conservative norms of the time by becoming Mexico's first female police force. They know the crime on which the second season is centered. Sadly, they do not appear to know the time. No word on when Women in Blue will be back in the stream. And finally today, a first look Wednesday at the epic historical drama Chief of War. In a third press release, Apple TV Plus gave a description, a dramatic art card, and a teaser. Describing the show, the release says set amidst the beautiful backdrop of the islands of Hawaii, the 9-episode series, based on true events, follows warrior Ka'iyana as he tries to unify the islands before Western colonization in the late 18th century. Jason Momoa stars as Ka'iyana. He also wrote the series and served as an executive producer. The first 2 episodes of Chief of War hit Apple TV Plus on Friday, the 1st of August. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, MacOSCan at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macoscan.com. Until next time, that is news from macOSCan. I'm Ken Ray.
Leonard likes this post.